Hey data fans, Reed here. Today I'm going to walk through a new three-part series on where I will showcase and hopefully help some of you who maybe are less familiar with DAX to understand some of the fundamentals. Now, I've had issues for years where I've had difficulty myself either learning or explaining the fundamentals of DAX, as I'm a very hands-on and visual learner, so I built out a series of guides to hopefully help explain this a little bit better, both from an instructor perspective, but also giving you some useful guides and resources on our website to be able to interact with those. So with that being said, let's hop into the guide and get started. So the first part of this fundamental series is going to be understanding DAX and really the logic behind this. Now, this is somewhat lifted and shifted from presentations and trainings that I've been doing for nearly a decade now to walk you through and hope to help get you a better understanding of really how the engine works from a fundamentals perspective. This will be overall a three-part series, and I'll walk through each of these as I build them out slowly over time. But it'll be a nice way to hopefully get some of you a bit more familiar, or just maybe think about DAX in a bit of a different way. Now, DAX itself stands for Data Analysis Expression. It was something that was coined by Microsoft back in the late 2000s when they had this just in Power Pivot as a plugin, as something that was built by the analysis services team back when Power Pivot was the only thing that had the DAX language. And they wanted to make this something that was akin or somewhat similar to Excel functions, as we'll see here in a moment. So there's really three types of calculations that you can create. You can create measures, which is the vast majority of the things that you'll write with DAX. You can also create calculated columns and calculated tables. Now, why should you care with this? Well, picking the wrong calculation type can sometimes lead to model bloat or complexities in the model. Most of the time, as we'll see later on going through this series, is that the vast majority of the time that you need to write DAX to create a calculation, it's probably going to need to be a measure, or should be, better said, to avoid those complexities as I just mentioned. Now, thinking about this from the Excel to the DAX world, essentially Excel old school to either Power Pivot, Power BI, analysis services, wherever you have a semantic model that leverages this language. It's kind of good to think about a bit of a mental shift between the two of them. In Excel, you point at things that would be such as like A1, B2 to B10, so on and so forth, where DAX points to things a little bit differently. So looking at some of the examples that we see here, we have some where in Excel, you would have done, say, B2 to 100 to sum the specific cells, where DAX would sum an actual column. So DAX points at references in the model instead of cells. If statements can look a little bit similar as well, but in the universe of DAX, we can use things like a switch statement and others to create multiple if conditions without having to use multiple ifs. Lookups, the great thing, as we'll see later on with relationships, is we don't have to, most of the time, use any kind of a lookup value or function. There is a lookup function technically in DAX, but relationships are what is meant to handle this, as we will see in further examples from there. Looking through a few others, count versus count rows, average versus average X, just mentioning a few others. You can just seek some kind of old versus new examples of each of those, as you'll be able to explore in the guide. But the nice thing about this really is it has a lot of similarities from the Excel universe. That was kind of the goal of a lot of this, to help with the lift and shift. And a big powerful one, as we'll see in part 3, is the date functions in DAX. There's a lot of powerful time intelligence functions in the time intelligence family, as we'll see later on. All right, now calculation types. There are three core tools in DAX when it comes to the types of calculations that we can make. As a reminder, again, we have measures. Example here is something like a profit margin that you can calculate. If we need to add columns to a visual, if we need to add columns to a table, we can use DAX to actually add additional columns into the model as well. And we can generate entire tables. So if we need to create something like a calendar table, what if and field parameters both actually leverage DAX to create the tables, just as an FYI. And a key insight, when in doubt, use a measure. The vast majority of the time, if you're needing to create a calculation, it's likely going to be a measure. The only time you need to create tables or columns is, generally speaking, if you're going to need to materialize something to use in a slicer or a visual or something along those lines to categorically group and display the data, not just produce a number. Now, I have a nice little walkthrough, and I'll go through just one example on this, but in case you're undecided on which to use, so we can go through a scenario of question 1, do you need a value for each row in a table? Do I need row-level values? No, I need a number. I want to produce like a total sales amount. So will this aggregate be used in report visuals? Yes, it will be. And coming to a conclusion of use a measure. So it will give you a little bit of a tree structure to make a decision and give you a recommendation for one of these 3 types, either between a measure, a column, or a table, depending on the answers that you pick here. So a nice little way to kind of help further explain that. Now moving on down, another fundamental thing that's important to talk about when it comes to DAX is syntax and references. So how to read and write DAX. So reference types, there is 3 things that a measure can point to in all of DAX. It can either point at a table, it can point at a column inside of a table, or it can point at a measure. We'll see plenty of examples of this later on, but it's a good fundamental to understand that these are the 3 references for it to get data. You can count rows on a table, you can sum a column, you can add 2 measures together, as an example. And then the operators are mostly lifted and shifted from other languages or Excel, where any of the standard operators that you would expect would be available here too. Now coming down, you don't have to memorize all 250 plus functions, but it is good to know a few of these. So some families to look at, like aggregation functions, filtering functions, as we'll see later on when using calculate, logic functions as well. So the ifs, ands, ors, trues, and falses. Iterator functions that we'll see later on, where we can actually pre-calculate data at one level before going to another. A whole series of time intelligence functions and a bunch of text-related functions too. And these just scratch the surface. DAX has a significant amount of functions to basically answer and assist with any business need you might have. Now, DAX is also fairly powerful when it comes to the data model. So something that I want to talk about with relationships in the model design, because that's how DAX is able to find context. So we primarily have fact tables, which is going to be transactional data, your orders, sales, events, each row of something that happened, often at a moment in time. We have our dimension tables, the who, what, when, why, and where. So this might be cargo, merchants, clients. I'm using a sci-fi themed model for this that we design in here, but it's the descriptive context, the things that go on your visuals to group things, your slicer selections. Now coming down and taking a look at it, you essentially have like a hub and spoke scenario where you'll have your fact table connected to a series of dimension tables, all flowing the data into there with a one-to-many relationship. The one represents the fact that each row, as an example in cargo, is a single row per cargo item, a single day or date from the star date key, the merchants over on the right, a single row per merchant, but on the fact table, multiple sales per dimension for cargo, start date, or merchants. So that's the significance of a relational model and how it can be leveraged paired with DAX formulas to produce the aggregate numbers that you need. And why it matters for DAX, as I mentioned, it's really allowing for filter propagation, for you to be able to slice and dice anything by anything. So it will come in and make more sense later on as we see a few other examples, but from a conceptual perspective, this is why we have a relational data model in our model when leveraging with DAX. Now, filter flow. Let's take an example down here and actually look through and see how data can actually filter each other. So if I was to filter to a cargo class for just minerals, this, because there is a relationship for my cargo dimension to my trades fact, it will find the correct rows given that relationship. Similarly, if I pick any of the future sci-fi cycles from my cycle selection over here, it will filter my dimension table at the top, going down to my fact table to find the corresponding rows. And as you can see, the values are changing at the bottom where there's 3 rows in context right now. My total units as well is changing to 560, same with my revenue. So this gives you a bit of an exploratory way to look at and see how filters work together to produce aggregate results down in these cards at the bottom. Now continuing on a little bit, mentioning here, like this is the thing that often I think helps DAX click a little bit for a lot of people, is really understanding that it's the relationships that allow for the measure to calculate all these different values, because my measure is just sum of sales amount or sum of credits. But because of the relationships and the model and all the columns, that's how the visuals on all the report pages essentially work. Now, a couple of key takeaways for the fundamentals before we dig into our next section. As I mentioned, there's 250 plus functions, 0 cell references with DAX. So about 80 or so came from Excel, 100 plus at least are unique to DAX at this point, but this really is a function language. It's meant to work with the functions needed for whatever metric or business requirement you have for the particular calculation that you're writing. The context is what drives results. So it operates on columns and tables, not cell references. And the context comes from that plus the relationships. Measures are your default. The vast majority of the time, if you need a calculation, it's probably going to be a measure. Columns store, tables structure. So calculated columns will store rollable values, calculated tables create new structures in the model. As I mentioned, like what if parameters are tables. The field parameters as well are tables. Calculation groups are also tables that are leveraging DAX to make them. Columns just add additional information if you needed to add new categorical fields or parents or children of another category. Star schema, 1000% is the foundational structure of a model where you have a hub and spoke of your fact to your dimensions, where it allows for the model to be slim and lean and also keep the structure between the relationships so DAX knows how to find its way around everything. Last but not least, filters flow automatically. So those relationships means that automatic filters are happening. We'll actually get into that in our next section when we talk about query. We'll actually get into that in our next section when we talk about query context and how that works with DAX to be able to allow the visuals to provide information that essentially restructures and configures the measures to produce the numbers that you need. With that being said, if you have any comment suggestions or any other notes for a future video, drop that in the comment section below. Check out some of our related content here in the upper right. And as always, liking, commenting, and subscribing will help the channel grow. And I'll see you in my next video.